Hey, what is going on, everybody? Well, we happen to be back in beautiful Texas, and as you can see, the sky is blue, the sun is shining. It is not nearly as hot as it was when we left for Florida. We did some epic things when we were in Florida, but it is time to get back to the great Lone Star state of Texas and get some content produced for you guys. Now, I will say that today's video is going to be about these hermit crabs, and in my hermit crab video that I put out about building them this enclosure, I have to say I got some pretty mean comments about my crab setup. And I mean, you can see this, look at this, just tons and tons of comments about how terrible of a job I did. And honestly, anybody that watches my content knows that stuff doesn't bother me. You could say all the negative and mean things you want as long as you're factual. And I'm the type of person that listens to what you say, apply change, and then come back and show you that I can do this right. So I'm taking all of your comments, everybody that decided to be mean and negative. If you had something factual in there, I've researched it. Today, we're gonna be focusing on all these negative comments and talking about what I did wrong with this enclosure. And we're gonna be building not only a saltwater pond, but also a freshwater pond for our little hermit crab. So with that, let's go ahead and get off into this and start focusing on every one of the negative comments that were left on that video and see what we can do different to make the lives of these hermit crabs even better than this epic enclosure that I did set up. So with that, let's get into this today. All right, guys, well, this is the hermit crab enclosure. And the first thing we're gonna do, we are gonna take this pellet food and we're gonna get rid of this. This is going right where it deserves, it is in the trash. So we have that now inside of this little bucket. We're gonna go ahead and remove some of these decorations, like this piece of cork here, this piece of cork, which I'm pretty sure the hermits are underneath here. And there they are, look at that. They're just burrowed down in the sand. Let's pick these guys up, they're doing good. We're gonna put these into this little bucket as well, just temporarily. So let's get these guys out, they're hanging out. Another thing that we're gonna talk about is these painted shells and why they're so terrible. We're gonna take out all of these decorations. There's a lot of stuff we're gonna be doing today. Go ahead and take this water, we'll dump that in here. So number one, first things first, what we're gonna do over here is we're gonna take our hand and we're actually gonna mix all of this substrate together. So apparently it needs to be all mixed together like this with all of this cocoa fiber and sand. We're actually gonna add some additional cocoa fiber as well. Move these rocks out of the way. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and add some more substrate to this. Somebody told me I did not have enough substrate, that it needed to be deeper. So we're adding more substrate. This is putting it well over the 6-inch mark, and hopefully this is actually enough. We're gonna build it up really high on this side, and it'll kind of have a natural flow down over here. Start mixing this substrate together, getting all of this sand and cocoa fiber mixed together really nicely. Some of these larger rocks over here, just kind of start building a base level for us. Put these smaller rocks in here as well, just kind of separate the enclosure just a little bit. It's not gonna be a ton. And coming over here, we're gonna start with kind of digging some of this substrate out on this side over here. These plastic little shoe boxes, and you can get these at Walmart for like less than $1. And let's put a nice little bed of sand right here that's kind of flat. We want to make sure it's fully level, and we'll backfill it a little bit as we do this, kind of get that down in there. And then let's go ahead and just push this sand back up around it. And then we're gonna take this sand over here and we're gonna do the same thing. Let's push all of this sand up out of here as much as we possibly can. We wanna get these about even in the ground here. So what this is gonna become is our saltwater and freshwater ponds. And we're gonna talk about how we're gonna let these crabs get in and out. We're gonna use one of these buckets as a template. Let's go ahead and build them a system to get in and out of this fresh and saltwater pond that is inside of their enclosure. So let's go build these ramp systems now. All right, guys, so what we're gonna do is use this egg crate to make a ramp system, and we're using one of these bins kind of as a template, if you will. So we see that it is about this wide right here. We wanna cut one section of this width right here. So we're actually gonna make it a little narrower. We're gonna get it on the outside of this line right here. So let's go ahead and get that done. All right, and look at that, it fits perfectly in there. So what we're gonna do is make a ramp system with this. And we actually may be able to use one piece of this to do two of them. Let's see if we can do that. And we're gonna cut this one in half now. So we're gonna put this at a pretty steep angle like this right here. And we need to bend this piece of plastic right along this line right here. And the way we're gonna do that is with an actual blowtorch. This will be our bend line right here. What I'm gonna do is use this blowtorch and just heat this plastic up right along where I wanna bend it. Get it nice and hot. And you don't wanna put the torch right directly on it. You just simply want it to start bending, just like that. Once it's bent to your angle, you just kind of let it stop, run some cold water over it. Now it's completely hardened. So we're gonna do the next one as well. I'm gonna get the same kind of bend to it. Dip that into some cold water as well. And now what we have is we have a ramp system that can sit down inside of this tub like this, allowing these guys to get out. Now what I want to do is also want to bend this right here just so it has the ability to fall down into the sand and can't fall into this tub. We're going to hit this just about right here. This one I don't want to fall too much, so I'm actually going to hand bend this, hopefully, just like that. We now have both of them set up. This will allow for this ramp to be in here, not fall inside. This side over here will actually stick down into the sand, and they will have the ability to climb out as well as climb up out of their enclosure down into their little saltwater and freshwater pond. We'll pack rock back behind this. It'll make it nice, a little aesthetic. They'll have a little gravel bed down here in the bottom. So let's go back over to the enclosure and take a look at what this is actually gonna look like. All right, so now that we have these done, we're just gonna drop these in here like this, and this actually worked out perfect. So these are gonna sit just like that. This will allow the crabs to walk into their little pond area and then also be able to climb out without any type of problem. So apparently, based on these comments, you're supposed to have something they can fully submerge themselves in, and that is what this setup is actually going to care for. One is salt, one is freshwater. Let's get these ponds set up inside of this hermit crab enclosure right now. My favorite part about doing anything is scaping it, and here we go. So I got some rock here, and we're just gonna start putting some of this rock just around the outside of these ponds, and it's just really to give it an aesthetic. It's kind of to make it look more like a pond. It's also really to keep these guys from digging around the edges as well. That guy's already burrowing himself down into the sand, which is super cool. We'll have to get him out of there before we get this thing finished though. So we'll come back with some more rocks as well. We're gonna put rocks down in the inside here. Okay, pretty simple setup here, but now we need to go ahead and drop in an aeration stone. So I'm doing this just to keep the water moving inside of this bin so it doesn't get stagnant and such. So what I'll do is I'm just using these little suction cup airline hose holders, and I will run this down in here. All right, so we now have aeration into our ponds. We have some substrate in there. Now we need to fill these up, one with salt water and one with fresh water. So let's go ahead and get that done now. All right guys, well we're ready to get some water in here, but before we start with fresh water, which is going to be on this side here, we had to go ahead and dechlorinate this water, and we use some of our favorite, which is API, Aqua Essential. And now that that is done, we are going to just simply pour this water in here, filling it completely up as high as we can get it, just like that. And now you can see there's plenty of fresh water, definitely deep enough for them to get in and fully submerge and out. And now let's go mix up some salt water for their saltwater pond. We now have our salt water mixed up. I've checked the salinity on this. It is 1.025, right at 1.024 to 25. Perfect salinity. And we're gonna go ahead and start filling up the saltwater pond. All right guys, well now that we have these ponds set up, we're gonna go ahead and get these pieces of cork back in here. Try to figure out how we wanna set this up. Kind of very similar to what we had before. We'll put this guy right here, and we kind of wanna just let this guy kind of hang out over here. So we got our cork back in here. Our ponds are looking good. We're gonna go ahead and add our hides back in here as well. So we got these guys moving around. We've got our hides back in here. We got all of our cork back in here. So now the last thing we need to do is talk about food for these guys. So for food, I'm actually gonna be using frozen fresh vegetables. They're all organic, no additives. We're gonna start with a little base of corn, peas, and green beans. And I did take your advice, and you can see comments on the screen here of where to go research how and what to do with crabs. I've spent a lot of time watching videos from this particular channel, and they talk about the different types of foods and why those foods are important. We're adding a little bit of green bell pepper as well, which is also all organic, no additives. And finally, from fruit, we're gonna add some mango, some pineapple, a little bit of strawberry, and some peach. Now for a little bit of protein, we're gonna go ahead and add a little bit of frozen shrimp. We're also gonna add just a touch of olive oil to this mixture. Like that. We're gonna come back in and just mix this all together. That olive oil gives them a nice amount of fat as well as some protein. So with that, our food mixture is done. I'm gonna place one of these bowls kind of back up in here a little bit, so there's a place for them to kind of get up under and feel safe. Hopefully, this food source is much better than what we had before, which was pellets. And from what I've learned, pellets are a terrible option for hermit crabs. And really what this tells me is that if you buy a hermit crab from a pet store, a big box pet store, nothing they tell you is accurate. Like everything they tell you is just what they sell in their store. It's about making money, not necessarily for the best care of your animal. Because this would not have happened if it wasn't for the feedback from you guys. Of course, the bin is well big enough for these guys, but now we have enough substrate in here. We have actual ponds of salt and fresh water. We have a very, very well-rounded diet for these guys that is not pellet based. So I'm trying to give these guys the best life they can, and we have one last thing to add, which is based on the comments that you see on the screen now, which is that these color painted shells are actually toxic. So what we need to do is go ahead and add some new shells. I've already boiled these. I'm dropping some water in there just so they're in here, and we're gonna place these throughout this enclosure. So when they decide that they need a new home, they can maybe make themselves a new home. All right guys, well hopefully you went on to enjoy this video today, talking all about these hermit crabs again. Hopefully you've gone on to like what we have done to this setup to make it better for these hermit crabs. If you did, and you don't mind, go ahead and drop a like on this video. I would really appreciate it. Also, if you have not visited freshwaterscrub.com, make sure you do. Use the code HERMIT for 10% off all of your orders for plants, as well as the Christopher Scott merchandise, which this angelfish is my logo, so this is on all kinds of stuff there as well. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Facebook. Links to both are down below. Know that I love you guys. Thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for coming back to watch all of my content. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And with that, we will see you next time.